Dear viewers, we often seek for external motivation for the betterment of our life. But we don't need external motivation for the betterment of our life because what we need is to find out the proper meaning of our life. Dear viewers, I am Pritam Raha and you are watching Less But Better, and this is the first episode of book review of Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. So without further ado, get the ball rolling. So dear viewers, this book has two parts. In the first part, the writer describes his experience in the concentration camp. For those who don't know what is a concentration camp, for them, a concentration camp is a prisoner camp made by the Nazi army during Second World War. In this camp, the Jewish people were taken by the Nazi army, and the Jewish people had to go through with unimaginable torture. They were provided minimum food, minimum hour of sleeping time, and minimum place to live in. They had to work since the dawn to the dusk, and in an environment where temperature was below zero. Even they had barely any dress to wear and had to work under that environment. In the second part of the book, the writer introduced us with a philosophical concept named logotherapy. Today, I'll be describing the first part of the book, where writer describes his experience in the concentration camp. The prisoners of the concentration camp can be divided into three parts. The first type of prisoners are those who are died due to lack of sleep or lack of food or something else. The second type of prisoners are those who are killed by the Nazi armies. And the third type of prisoners are those who are alive even after going through a lot of sufferings and tortures by the Nazi army. The writer mainly puts his spotlight onto these prisoners who are alive even after going through a lot of suffering and torture in the concentration camp. Writer wanted us to pinpoint that what kept them alive even after going through this suffering, and they had to all the reason to commit suicide, but they didn't. And why didn't they do so? What mystery kept them alive? And that was the main discussion of the first part of this book. At the very beginning, the writer introduces us with a concept named Delusion of Reprieve. When the condemned prisoners were ready to be executed, the prisoner had a feeling that at the last moment he will be excused. Meaning, when a prisoner was taken to be killed, he had a feeling that he will be excused or he will be escaped at the very last moment, despite the fact that he didn't have any clue for such kind of thinking. But still he thought that he would be escaped at the very last moment. This phenomenon is also seen in our day-to-day life. When we are in a bad situation and we think that something miracle will happen and something good will come automatically. Whenever we have a bad exam and we think that something will happen and our grade will be good. When we are in a relationship crisis and we have a feeling that at the last moment something good will happen and our relationship will be as fine as it was. So this concept is known as Delusion of Reprieve. We think that at the last moment everything will be fine. This phenomenon was seen among the prisoners in 1945, and this phenomenon is also seen at present among us. During the concentration camp, the writer found that medical science doesn't always tell us the truth. Because in the medical book, it is stated that we cannot live if we don't have certain hour of sleep a day. But the writer, along with his fellow prisoners, passed many sleepless nights, but still they survived. So what writer said is that what our body can survive is beyond our imagination. If we have proper aim, if we have proper reason, then our body can survive anything and almost everything. In the concentration camp, the writer came across an unprecedented event. In a day, a prisoner died. After his death, one prisoner came to the dead body and took away the food left over by the dead body. Another prisoner came and took the clothing of the dead body. Another prisoner came and took the shoes of the dead body. How ridiculous that is, can you just imagine? And more surprisingly, the other prisoners didn't get astonished by watching that the prisoners are taking away food, clothes, shoes from the dead body. So the main takeaway from this story is that an abnormal behavior in an abnormal situation is considered to be a normal behavior. So in our day-to-day life, we find or face some abnormal situation when we behave irrationally, and after that we found ourselves guilty and remorseful that why did we do that, why did we behave so irrationally. But remember that an abnormal behavior in an abnormal situation is considered to be a normal behavior. Then writer described that what kept him motivated to bear all of those unbearable torture and suffering in the concentration camp. He loved his wife so much, and his wife was also the prisoner of another concentration camp. So whenever he got time, he told his fellow prisoners about his wife, and he told them that how much he loved her wife. But he didn't know that whether his wife was alive, but he longed for his wife after the liberation from concentration camp. According to the writer, love is the highest and ultimate goal to which a man can aspire. One of the added reasons was his unfinished manuscript. The writer was a psychologist, and by researching for a number of years, he found out a lot of important insights, and he wrote them in his manuscript. But whenever he was entering in the concentration camp, the Nazi army took away his manuscript and all of his finding was gone. But he didn't give up. So his desire to rewrite the manuscript anew helped him to survive the rigors of the concentration camp. He knew that his manuscript is not only important to him but also important for the mankind as well. So for finishing the manuscript, he survived and tolerated all the torture and the sufferings of the concentration camp, and that was his underlying reason to survive in the concentration camp. On the other hand, prisoners who gave their hope died quickly. One prisoner had a dream, and in his dream, one voice said that the war is going to be ended on 13 March. However, on the 13th March, it would appear that the war is nowhere near to end. Eventually, the prisoner died on 31st March. Sudden loss of hope and courage can have a great effect on our body. The ultimate cause of his death was that the expected liberation didn't come on time and he was depressed, and that immediately lowered his body's resistance. Another incident found that the most of the prisoners died between the Christmas and the eve of New Year, because they had a feeling that during Christmas or during New Year they will be escaped. But as they didn't get the liberation, their body resistance went down, caused him to death. So they didn't die lack of food or lack of sleep, but they died for lack of hope, lack of something to live for. Another great takeaway from this book is a famous quotation is that he who has a why to live for can survive almost anyhow. Meaning, if we have a proper reason to live for, if we have a proper goal, proper aim, proper motivation, then our body can survive anything and almost everything. So writer tells us that it doesn't even matter what we expect from life, but what matters is what life expects from us. So oftentimes we blame our fate that why our life doesn't seem like this, why our life doesn't seem like that. We need to stop asking the meaning of life. Rather, we need to consider of those who are being continuously questioned by life. Life is all about taking the responsibility and finding the answer of each problem thrown by life, and to fulfill the task which it constantly sets for each individual. This book doesn't teach us what is the meaning of life. Rather, this book teaches us to find the proper meaning of life by ourselves. There is no instinct that tells us what should we do, or no culture tells us that what would we do. We don't even know what should we do. So what we do is mainly what others are doing or what others want us to do. And both of the approaches are wrong and known as existential vacuum. So what we need is to find out the proper meaning of life by ourselves. And every person has a different aim and different meaning in their life. The suffering of the prisoner didn't even finish even after their liberation. A man who has been under severe pressure for a long time is naturally in some danger even after his liberation. The liberation came all of a sudden. They didn't receive the proper sympathy that they wanted from their family. Their family members also had to go through suffering, although they are not the prisoner, but they had to survive the wartime. So their family members didn't show the expected sympathy to the prisoners. Thus, the prisoner became more disappointed even after the liberation. Most importantly, the prisoners forget how to be happy because they had been in an unhappy situation for a long time. So if we are in a situation that doesn't let us happy for a long time, then we gradually forget how to be happy, and even the proper situation comes that is sufficient to make us happy, but we can't be happy because we forget how to be happy. So if you are in a situation that doesn't let you happy, try to be happy even in the worst situation, because if you remain unhappy for a long time, then you forget how to be happy even you have proper reason to be happy. So dear viewers, this is the first episode of the book review of Man's Search for Meaning, and in the second episode I'll be reviewing the second part of the books. In the second part, writer introduces us with a magnificent concept named logotherapy. If you want to get the notification as soon as I upload the second episode, then you can press the bell button and also subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, you can also hit the like button, and see you in the next episode. Till then, goodbye.